Right. I wish I could continue to listen to this very beautiful interlude. Uh, but now we are about to start the panel. I welcome Pradeep, Ashok, Rahul on the stage. We are still waiting for Aprajita to join. She's in US and currently apparently not reachable. I hope everything is fine with her. And in case if she manages to join, then I believe she will just join the party. If not, we could still start. Well, let's start with small introductions. I believe people all have interacted with Rahul today. Pradeep, today I will start with Ashok. Hi Ashok, how are you doing? It's great to see you
Hello,
after
Lalit.
a long time.
All right. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. So Ashok looks after Stack Software as its founder and CEO. And if I remember it right, his talk on aesthetics of software testing done back around 11 years ago in Mumbai was my first testing talk that I saw on the stage. And Ashok has made a great impression on me with all his work, style of delivery, and knowledge since then. And we have been working closely on T-Time with testers engagement since then. Pradeep, I told about his impact on my work. Rahul, we have interacted in between. Aparajita works as a test manager, senior test manager for Guardant Health. She's not with us yet. Just in case she joins later, she could just jump onto the questions. Well, the topic today is testing after 2020. Interesting year this has been so far, right? I
Yes.
was, yeah. So when Mahesh called me up with the idea of tribal Qonf, we were just discussing about pros and cons of the situation. And naturally, given the thinking testers that we are, we started thinking, okay, conference can still survive, but what about testing profession itself? What is this whole situation is going to, how it is going to affect the testing profession? Is there any impact? What can we expect? And then we realized, okay, why not to make this as a topic of discussion and ask some senior people and experts in the field who probably have more uh, close interaction in handling the situation, and that's how we ended up having this topic as a discussion for expert panel. On that note, people, I would like to kick off the talk with my very first question for you, and it should be there on your screen. Yeah. So, considering your respective job function in testing field, how do you expect things to change for you after 2020? Let's start with Pradeep.
Fantastic. Okay. So, first of all, thanks, Lalit. You've been speaking since morning and helping all of us. So, thank you. Thanks a lot for that. Okay. Hi to Rahul and Ashok.
Hey.
I hope you guys are doing great. Considering my respective job function, so I'm doing two things right now. I'm I'm helping. Uh, I'm a businessman and I'm a product owner in the space of testing. So for me, how do I expect things to change after 2020? First of all, I want to, like everybody else, I want to get rid of 2020 as quickly as possible. This has not been a year that we anticipated, or nobody saw this coming. But in terms of what's it testing, I think this has thrown a lot of good challenges because nobody expected this level of a mass work from home scale. Now, so if you look at it, in our office we built device labs. Now we can't even go and work in the device lab. So that's one thing that I would say that it's going to change in a big way, that the device labs, in-house device labs, are going to go away, and a lot more cloud labs are going to come. And it's already there, but I think the scale at which that has to be done is going to change. I'll shut my mouth and I'll pass it on to others to be able to give a better answer than me.
Sure. What do you think, Ashok, the whole situation on your end?
It's an interesting year. Interesting because it's a bit of a nice inflection point. So I guess we should be proud of the fact that we are living an inflection. So, the nice part about this whole thing is It's one, you expect you become more resilient, and more than anything else, I think you will become a lot more inward. So I think to me, it's a brilliant exercise in staying positive, mentally, I mean. Okay? And I think, there are things that happen and things that go away too. So I'm not overly worried about the fact, hey, is it going to be there for a long time? No, stuff comes in, stuff goes out, hang around for some more time. Well, which is just the passing kind of a phase. So I think, yeah, I think we have become completely digital, if you will. So we are kind of working from home, doing things, etc. Though, of course, I miss the fact that interacting with people, a lot more people at work, is not something I enjoy. I love to be with people more than anything else. And, innovation, ideas happen when you actually meet. I don't know, I'm probably still older. I probably still value the individual me. But I guess what's happening is it's allowing us to become more self-sufficient at home, and I think that will continue. And I think it's just going to make us far more stronger. And I think we've just accelerated the entire pace in 2020. So, hang around and, have a great time as we go forward. I think it's just a nice time.
Is it safe to say, Ashok, that your silicon fillings project started as outcome of the whole creative?
Yeah.
All right, cool. What is your take on this, Rahul? How are things at your end as a tester?
So, see, there are two parts to any person. One is the professional part, one is the personal part. At a personal level, I don't like interacting with people much. So my interactions with people is very limited. I focus better when I'm alone. So these 5-6 months have been some of the best months in my professional career. So ideas which were running in my mind for years and I was never able to bring them together. And since Jan till June, Arjuna 1.1 in 3 days is going to be out. It didn't happen in years. So that is the focus or professional aspect that I like to work alone when my work involves just me. So that nature of work has actually flourished during this time. But then even for people like me, and there are many like me out there who sort self-labeled introverts, as we would say. But there is a personal touch always required in personal life, in professional life. And my profession is consulting and coaching. And the challenge which I'm facing is that this virtual medium of either presenting or talking to people doesn't work for me. So in this aspect, I'm of the mentality as Ashok that I would rather want a personal feel. I want to meet the person to whom I might talk less, but in that lesser talk, I want to be with the person with whom I'm discussing. So in that aspect, I'm trying to adjust, and that is definitely a challenge. But would things change after 2020? So on your slide, there are two things mentioned. The title says testing after 2020, and the question is about me. Actually, these are not related questions. We often confuse testing with the tester. Testing is changing. It would continue to change. It has always changed. We should not confuse our own future with the future of testing. Yeah. So whatever changes are happening around us, the thing is that are we going to follow that change, or because it anyways takes a decade before any change results in any practical change in the world. So are we going to survive with what we are today? So that's the question I think everybody of us are facing. And I'm in the same.
That's a very interesting perspective you gave me, Rahul. Now let me ask you a difficult question. So how are you as a tester not letting what is happening to testing affect you on personal level, or what would your advice would be to not let changes in testing as a profession affect us as testers on personal level? I personally feel there is a very thin line between me as an individual and the work I do, because my work is my identity and I myself is part of my identity too. How do we separate these two?
See, it's not deliberate, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But when we say changes in testing have affected a tester, and there is a thin line between that, for you being a passionate tester, it might be true. But anyways, people are on board here. So let me really ask upfront. How many of testers have really been impacted by AI and ML? Really?
Mm-hmm.
This noise is going on for years now. We are being made afraid in conferences and everywhere that AI and ML would impact this and that. At least 5 to 7 years now. Who has it impacted so far, really? DevOps. Beyond the noise of DevOps, how many testers are really into DevOps? Beyond Jenkins integration. So you see, just following the bandwagon doesn't mean that testing change has happened to a tester. We are just putting labels in our profiles. I'm talking of real change. So if I look at my last 10 years, before those 10 years, I was a coder. I was interested in object-oriented programming and design. I was a Python coder from 13 years. I am a Python coder today. I was a framework designer then. I'm a framework designer today. I was a presenter then. I'm a presenter today. I was a techie then. I'm a techie today. So you see, if I have to be really, upfront and honest about it, there are changes which have happened in me because I opened an organization, a testing company. There were things which I learned about business. There were a lot of things. There were things about collaboration. For example, Pradeep had mentioned today, the business side of things, the importance of it. I have toned down internally. Some of the noises have subsided. So Buddha in testing. Yeah. So there are internal changes which are happening, but they are not because of changes in testing, really.
Mm-hmm.
They are internalized changes because I've aged, I've matured, I've interacted more, I've met more people, better people than me. So and I can't speak for the world. I can just speak for myself. I don't see me changing as the testing world has changed. I think I'm more or less the same as far as testing and me, this relationship is concerned. I love testing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I like that you brought up the topic of machine learning AI because that naturally ties up this whole conversation to my next question. And for the record, I want to tell everybody these questions are not shared with the panel before.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. So considering this AI MI context, do you think post 2020 will be the rise of the machines era, particularly in software testing context? I would maybe let you continue, Rahul, on that topic.
I would. I have already spoken a lot. So, how about
Okay, great.
for Ashok taking it up? I can add. I can add comments later.
Absolutely.
See, I think what is happening as is any discipline. Now, if you consider our discipline to be the software engineering discipline, over the last 50 plus years, we have matured, we have become industrialized. We're able to assemble pieces of code, assemble systems today, which is really the era of industrialization, the way you build cars, the way you build any of these large machines, so to speak, right? So in the entire process, the technology, the tooling, the components have become, extremely well available. Machines have actually become far more smarter for sure. Now they allow us to do a lot more work, far better than possibly what we did many years ago. They are really good workers. What's the limitation? The human. The problem is now the human. So the question here is, if you're not smarter, you're not going to be able to harness what it is. So if you call it as the rise of machines, so I would say, yeah, because as in any technology will continuously be a juggernaut going all the way forward. Now the question is, do you want to get crushed or do you want to sit on top of the fellow and ride it? That's really the whole story. So if you think about it, that the human element, the human intellectual ability is far more important at this point in time, which allows us to be extraordinarily technology friendly, technology exploitive, and we are able to harness that intellectual ability. Then we are in good shape. Then there is no rise in the machines. We actually rise better than the machines, I would assume. And that's where I see that the whole idea of us becoming far more brilliant, far more smarter, and therefore I think I use the word more of a smart QA, so to speak, is important. So I think it's not anymore just about being specialists. I think it's about being fantastic generalists. That probably is a skill that we still have to master a lot more and becoming a far better engineer in a larger sense, right? And of course, engineering here is just not about just doing what I do, but I think it's connecting to the whole larger context. I think Pradeep kind of talked about it in the morning in the context of business value. So I think we all exist because at the end of the day, we connect to the business and add value to what we do, to our company, to the communities, and so on and so forth. So yeah, will it be the rise of machines? I think machines have been rising all along, and I think the question is, are you on top or are you sadly underneath or getting in the way? So I'll let Pradeep continue from here.
Well, thank you very much. I think good insights coming from Rahul. Oh, wow, nice. Okay, Aprajita, joined in. So maybe we should just give a quick intro and then I can take over.
Absolutely. Aprajita is still on mute, but if you could unmute. Welcome, Aprajita. We thought we almost lost you, and we hope everything is fine at your end. Nevertheless, it's never too late. It's never too late. You're meditating time. We are currently talking about if post-2020 is going to be a rise of machines era, and Ashok and Rahul shared their interesting insights, and Pradeep said ladies first. If you're up for taking this question now, we could continue, or I would like Pradeep to talk, and you can breathe in a bit.
We are not ready for any rise of machines, to be honest, even post 2020. We are from an AI machine learning perspective in very, very early stages. We haven't even scratched the surface of artificial intelligence. So no. Software testing context, I think there's definitely going to be an increase of machines from the perspective of us being home, right? I do see people now working from home more, maybe some of from automation perspective, that getting increased. So I do anticipate that happening, but I don't anticipate it being the rise of the machines era. More than anything else, I think what is going to rise post 2020 is going to be humanity, because we would need to connect more with our teams, with our peers, than we had needed to connect in the past, because you would be at office, you'll meet people, but now you have to put in extra effort to actually meet people, network. Yeah.
Cool. What do you think, Pradeep?
So I think I've said this in the past. I think people are using AI as an excuse to wake up and solve the fundamental testing problems that they were supposed to solve even without AI.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just what I want to say.
Wonderful. Rahul, do you have any additional thoughts to add on?
Looking into the future, I have often said that we have a lot of debt of the past to pay, and people with debt of the past don't usually have the right to talk of future because they've lost it already. So as Pradeep mentioned, there are past problems to be solved. Testers who don't know basic fundamental test design techniques, after all these decades of testing as a dedicated service and profession, we should not be talking of machines that are, or rise of machines and all these fancy things. It's just to look smarter than we are, really. So let's get to the basics. Let's solve the problems which are supposed to solve. Let's earn the right to talk about such things before fancying them. That's what I would say.
I just want to add a point over there. So I think that I was trying to look at what problem in testing is worthy of bringing in AI, and I'm trying to see this. I think the one hope I have is with somebody like Jason Arbon from Test.ai, but most of the other AI that I've been seeing is about fixing scripts based on things that are actually broken. So and they're calling it like self-healing scripts and stuff like that. what is the value of those? So you can write a whole lot of shitty, front end GUI tests and try to heal that. You're healing something that should be left to die, right? So
Yeah.
so instead of that, are we? There are things like, for instance, I talked about unit testing, right?
Yeah.
How can someone bring in AI to help people to do better unit testing? I think we should probably start from there.
Yeah.
If we don't start from there, but we try to apply it to the front end, then we are going to create new, uncontrollable, unlearnable, flaky AI. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just came up. so
Yeah.
so I think that's just some of the pointers that I wanted to add.
So to expand on what you said, Pradeep. So Lalit, and maybe to all the panelists. See, I find a serious disconnect between various such themes which are going on. For years now, we have been sold agile test pyramid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it happens in the body of the same conference, same day, by the way. It might be happening in parallel tracks also in conferences. I'll tell you the irony. So one side, we are sold agile testing pyramid, that all your testing focus should be on unit test and then web services, underlying layers basically, and UI test should be small tip of the iceberg, right? And on other side, we talk of AI and ML, and look at, I'll not take names. Some of the names have already been taken in this panel discussion. Look at the problem these AI companies are solving. They're solving the problems in the tip of that pyramid, UI testing problems. Now, isn't this a disconnect? Wouldn't it be much useful to come up with AI or ML at unit testing and web services layers rather than UI layer? But where's that AI? Wouldn't it be nicer to extract automatically tests from maybe definitions of web services, design first-based tests, and test robustness at that place? Where is that AI? Who's selling that? But the question is, who's buying that, right? Everybody's after UI testing. The inverse pyramid still exists. And AI, all companies also thought to solve the problems of what people are buying. And this is a fundamental disconnect. And I don't think so we are going to get away from this. Given the past evidence, as I mentioned, debt of the past, it is sticky. It is going to stick for many, many years with good people.
Interesting. I so wish I could be so relaxed, chilled, and so reflected as you all are on this particular topic. But that compels me to ask you this question. So, is this relaxed outlook comes to you with the privilege of the positions that you're currently working in? Meaning by me or anybody, I'm asking this on behalf of ordinary tester who works 9 to 6 as a hands-on tester. And testers today are overwhelmed with the necessity to compete with AI, ML, or even get familiar with it, add that skills in their resume, while the fact that they are still required to concentrate more on the actual basic fundamental testing skills. How do they convince themselves that it is not going to affect them and they can still afford to continue what they are doing?
So
How?
No, it's so.
yeah.
Go ahead, Pradeep.
No. Please go ahead.
It's so funny you say that because I started my testing career really long time ago, and we were still talking about this, right? Like 20 years ago, we were talking about, oh my God, there's this, new automation techniques that are coming in, and you're going to lose your job, and no one's going to do manual testing. The question has not changed, and I know there's this whole hashtag going on around there's nothing called manual testing. But like this really builds off what Rahul just said, right? Like you have to get the basic. You cannot automate whether you're using AI, whether you're using a basic shell script, whether you're using API. You cannot automate something at any level if you don't understand the fundamentals, whether that's application level or whether that's from an automation or coding perspective, right? And for me personally, I have learned this the hard way, right? Like you were right early on. There, you go to conferences or talking to people, and they're like, "Oh my God, there's this cool tool out. You should try that." And all tools are evolving, techniques are evolving, programming languages are evolving. Over a period of time, you recognize that okay, the only thing that has not changed is the domain knowledge that I'm gaining, the fundamentals that I'm gaining while working towards whatever I'm trying to work towards, right? Um, and I think coming and talking to people in, tribal Qonf, for example, or other people in the network is going to provide you that insight. Um, they should go ask their manager, like, seriously, if I don't learn AI ML, am I going to lose my job? I can guarantee you the manager cannot say yes. Like, I'm saying this from a management position. There's no way that can happen. What they can do, though, like, that doesn't mean that they don't learn. What they can do is look for things that they want to gain knowledge in and expand that, right? So that is something that shouldn't stop them, irrespective of what era you are in. You should always learn. You should always continue to improve. But yeah, I don't see a fear. I don't.
Excellent. So, Pradeep, please go ahead.
I think you started off your question by saying ordinary tester 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, all throughout my career, I wanted to do that, but I could never do it, and I was trying to be as ordinary as possible. The builds always came on a Friday evening, usually at about 10:30. So I was just trying to find out where that ordinary tester who is able to do the 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, okay. One, the second thing is that great points by Aprajita. I second that, and I also want to say this, that I would for the benefit of audience, I would certainly like them to start thinking about analytics driven test automation. There is so much of valuable analytics that's available from the way customers are using it, and that's something that I still don't see being applied to testing or automation or anything like that. I think I'm still imagining a simple plugin that will connect to Google Analytics and give the top 10 flows and convert that into scripts that run and say, here are your top 10 flows on the top 10 devices used, and this is the behavior, and it starts to run. This does not require AI, and even this level of automation has not come in place. Now again, I'm slowly becoming very afraid to speak about automation or manual. That's the way that the industry is moving, that it's become too redundant conversation of, like, I don't know what other topic to also pick up and talk sometimes, with testers. So, and then the other thing is about the fear part of it, right? I think there are businesses who make money by driving fear. For them, it's a great thing. And for me, I think AI is going to be like the putty that I used long ago. And it's just going to be another one. And a decade from now, we're going to talk about the new terminology, because 3 years ago I was on a panel where they were discussing about DevOps. Now they're not discussing about DevOps, because DevOps is like become everybody's doggy. Now we're talking about AI. A few years from now, I think we would be called and said, what do you think about this X3B choo choo? I don't know, I'm just giving this crazy name. What do you think about that? And I think, like, I think at least me, I'll be shamelessly giving gyan to people as though I've done it, been there, and all of that stuff. But essentially, the fundamental problems remain, and I seriously want to see some good innovation coming from the testing space, and that's those are my pointers.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I have a point to add there. So I think, we've all been grousing about the fact that nothing much have changed and we have to get back to fundamentals. So I agree, engineering fundamentals are always there. Let's not kid ourselves thinking that as we age and as we get older, that nothing has changed. I mean, there's a significant amount of change. Change happens not from our community. Change happens because of external business. The business changes, the needs change, the cost structures changes, the expectations change, and whether you like it or not, you're either inside with it or you're thrown out. That's really what it is, right? It's not about you liking, disliking. It's really the environment. Now, understand, the thinking that we use is more often engineering-oriented, math-based oriented thinking, where we think we solve a problem, right? I mean, the shift in thinking is to shift to a biological, evolutionary kind of thinking. There is no such thing as you understand the problem fully. We evolve, and a biological thinking is really about solving a problem little, learning from a lot of mistakes, adjusting a little, and continuously doing. That's a beautiful story. If you go read the book on, the 7, I think it's called something like Innovation 7, I forget what it is. It's an innovation book. But, it's got a fantastic story. The fantastic story is about an equipment. I think it's a heat exchanger, which becomes faulty. And it's used in soap manufacturing by, I think it's the Dow company, okay? Mm-hmm. So basically it goes up, so they give it to a bunch of biologists, physicists and mathematicians to solve the problem. They apply math, thermodynamics, all that stuff, flows, all that stuff. Well, they suffer it, they don't solve it. And still the machine doesn't produce the right soap, and therefore business is flunking. And that particular company gives it to a bunch of biologists. What the biologist guys do, okay, they take the problem, which means there is a problem, there's an equipment, they vary the equipment a little bit in 10 different ways, try experiments. Well, 9 fail, 1 works, kind of. They take that 9, split it into 10 more variations, try it. They take 449 variations, and they solve the problem faster than the engineering people, as we know. So what am I trying to take? There is a lot of little things that are changing constantly. Technology is improving, they're becoming a little smarter. A little smart at a time, okay? And it's not going to suddenly become, oh, okay, this machine is, well, it can replace me. It's got the brain of any of us. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. But then when it happens, you won't even know it because it's evolutionary in nature. I'm sure you must have known about the story of the 14 wolves, which was let out into a forest, which was let out into an area which is a forest, which has become completely dry in US many years ago. And after about a decade, the dry forest became absolutely green. And the river changed the direction. There's a video around it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's a little change, which is based on biology. So what I want to kind of submit here is the fact there are lots of changes that are occurring today from a technology aspect. The technology is getting a little more smarter. And well, it's going to affect you in little ways that you don't imagine. And these changes, whether you like or not, are going to be pushed in by the external needs of business, which is demanding things to be done faster and faster. Well, we will accumulate technical debt. Never is it going to be, take on the box top today. Every time it's going to be a first, and you're always going to create more mistakes, and you're going to inherit some of them, and well, that's going to happen. I wish, of course, certain mistakes, kind of go away. I guess I have to be, to some degree, be positive that they will go away in the harder way, or people will go away, and therefore the mistakes will get lesser. But then, I guess, there is no such thing as an immediate magic that's happening. Shifting to a biological evolutionary thinking, I think that's what it is. And I know of certain companies, primarily in the product companies, where because some of those people in the testing group were not as technological savvy, well, they were let off, right? Not because they were bad, it's just not useful anymore to what we are doing, not as useful as you would want. That's going to happen. And that is continuously happening. I don't think they're going to make it to the stories on the front page. They're going to be stuff that you and I would know because we know the people and they know that is merging in some form or fashion. And of course, business is always about FUD. So there is going to be fear, uncertainty, doubt, and we're going to profit from it. There's going to be new stuff. We're going to have new quadrants and new stuff in the quadrant. But that's a game of the business, right? And that's what it is. So I don't expect that instantly there's going to be something that's going to replace me. But then I'm going to be quite wary of the fact that tiny little things are going to, nibble at me every day, like the piranha. Mm-hmm. So, and well, as long as I'm constantly evolving a little bit, well, life is good then.
Thanks a lot, Ashok. I think I'm going to need to reach and watch the recording again later and chill out with my drinks. But very interesting insight so far. Thank you. What do you think, Rahul?
So there are 2 points I would like to touch. One is with respect to AI and ML, because that has been the underlying thing. And as Ashok correctly mentioned, that there are so many changes happening around us, and the changes happen in a subtle way, slow way. The problem which I have in discussing this subject is I don't know A and M, right? And till we know the subject, we should not be commenting on it fully. Yeah, from a distance, we can be a bystander, clap for it. But till we have done something on the subject, we are not the right people to comment on it. So there are some 250 people listening to us now, right now, to this panel. Some of them would be making up their minds in a certain way. So there's a certain level of responsibility on all of us as well. So I'll share my honest opinion. AI and ML would have impact on testing profession. But if you take 1 lakh testers, about 100 of them would be working on AI and ML. Yeah. This is maybe next 5-6 years future. That is the ratio we are going to look at practically. The rest of the people, maybe another 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 more, 10,000 more, might be working on AI and ML, thinking they're working on AI and ML. But what they would be making use is AI and ML libraries, which is no different from a Selenium library. You are not creating AI and ML. Don't fool yourself. If you have to understand AI and ML fully, please go through a course. I have gone through one. I've read books on AI and ML, and then I'm saying I don't understand it. Because importing a Python module on ML and making function calls, passing some arguments to its already established mathematical protocols, that is not developing AI and ML. That is making use of an AI and ML library, commands and queries. Let's not confuse that with working on AI and ML. That's why I'm saying that in the testing world, a small 1%, 0.5% people might end up working in true AI and ML, which would be too complex for simple minds like me. Yeah. And then some of us might be making calls to those libraries, making use of that tools. And some of the jobs in the other part, apart from this, would get impacted, as the show correctly mentioned. So please keep this in mind and choose a bucket where you want to belong to. And believe my word today, right? So I've been projecting some things in my presentations, so you can look at them. You can look at the sincerity of them. So next 10 years, my opinion, honest opinion today, I could be wrong, but this is what I think. This is the amount of change which is going to happen. I have had the same opinion on DevOps. I've talked about the same thing on Agile, and we see the ship today. We are still in, right? So beyond the noise, the realities are a little different.
So apart,
Yep. The second part is you touched on the word ordinary. Now, the thing is that when we sit as panelists, we sort of look extraordinary, right? That these are some specialists, some out of the world people who have been brought on board, and we should listen to their opinions. The thing is that these ordinary panelists, now, Ashok T sir, I respect you a lot. You're like you are like veteran. So I don't even know your full history also, right? I've been seeing you since I started speaking on stage. So you belong to much previous era and you have been there. But I can comment on me and Pradeep that us two ordinary people, if you rewind back some years, when I was running a testing company, selling you a testing service and speaking on stage that this is a scam. At the same time, you would find same ordinary Pradeep selling a service and then advising a client against it. Yeah. You rewind that some years back, the extraordinary panelists, basically, you would see that we are from the audience itself, but at different points when the world was going in a certain direction, we at least owned ourselves. We acknowledged that we could be wrong about it, but we had the courage. And I remember the courage t-shirt also today, right? So we at least had the courage to stay the way we want to. And I fully appreciate that it is easier done as an individual. I can choose my path the way I want because I'm just responsible for myself as a consultant. So I can take my decisions, right? And possibly because of that, I chose this path. But when you have the responsibility of an organization, a testing services company, Pradeep is high risk taker than me. I believe that he's running an organization with that spirit, right? But then as the organizations become larger and larger, having the spirit of revolution or thoughts or these things, maybe somewhere it dies down. And then we become a part of the rest of the world. And I think that's where some balance has to be found out. And I do appreciate all the points discussed on this panel, but their impact is going to vary from one individual to another. When I said it doesn't impact me, these changes, it was a very, very individual opinion. And I still stand by that these changes don't impact me. I'm still the same Rahul I was 18 years back. It doesn't impact me because of the path I've chosen.
Excellent. I'm very happy. I feel very pleased how all the answers are in a way complementing each other, and I think this is the great value of the panel.
I'm actually not coming to the panel again if Rahul and Ashok are there. They are bringing in enough wisdom. So I'm just kidding that. Okay, go ahead, Lalit.
One follow. Go ahead,
Rahul,
Ashok.
ordinary is a very complicated word. You know why? Because ordinary is the hardest.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you've read Osho, you will know ordinary is being middle ground. It's not being swayed to either the end. So if you say ordinary, understand that you are really evolved.
Okay.
And I think you are.
Thank you.
Great. One follow-up question for you, Rahul. So what would you advise people to prepare themselves when it is a time for them to use those libraries as a service? So how do they prepare themselves step by step? What would be baby step advice from your end?
Yeah. I'll share my opinion, and I've discussed this in many conversations also. There is this lot of rush about being a generalist. It is pushed by the agile philosophy also.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I find a goal displacement and contradictory statements in this regard.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about AI and ML. We talked about rise of machines. AI and ML is going to solve all the generalist problems. Look at the problems it is solving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Machines, they solve generic problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the machines and AI and ML are going to solve the generalist problems, then what are generalists going to do tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
There's a question in the comment section about NLP and other things, right? That we dictate and automatically code is generated or design is generated. And it is going to happen, by the way. Code, today's programming language should be our spoken language. I don't know why programming languages exist today, even today. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have evolved. We can always dictate and code could be automatically generated today. We don't need to wait 10 years for that. But we are waiting because of the business side of things. So the thing is that if you look at AI and ML, the problems they are solving, they are redundant problems, simpler problems, generalist problems. Something can be auto-launched, auto-created, the basic part, right? So what is the job left for people? I project that the job left for people is that of analysis, thinking skills, specialization. Yeah. And in the spirit of agile and DevOps and all of this and all these skills pushed, we are creating an army of generalists. Yeah. So tomorrow, when a rise of machines and all these changes really take place the way we are discussing in this panel, you tell me what is this army of generalists going to do? We are killing specialist jobs today, whereas the need of the future is specialization. Where would you find those specialization? I have seen people like performance engineer for 15 years on Oracle performance tuning. This person didn't even know how to write a performance test. This is the level of specialization which used to happen. Today, you try finding such an engineer. They know a little bit. They know title, how to launch Jenkins, how to change this config, how to launch this. Launching would, AI and ML would do that. Yeah, what is launching? So these 45 skills, 50 skills, which people are putting in today's profiles, that is not a profile. You're fooling yourself into skills. This is not a skill. Skill is deep dive. And when machines have covered the core base of the skill set, tomorrow's jobs, if we really, really think about change happening and the subtle change incrementing, tomorrow it would be specialist jobs left. If you are really worrying about it, so if you were thinking of that one skill which you wanted to deep dive, start now. Irrespective of whether industry wants it or not, tomorrow, see, industry always creates a burger shop and then 5 years later asks for pizzas. Okay?
Excellent. I cannot really resist my temptation for asking one follow-up question, so I would ask it right away. So, since you touched this generalist topic and machines trying to solve it, do you think the rise of machines, so to say, coming up for solving this generalist problem is happening because we humans or testers are not being productive enough or are not being thinking testers enough or not using our skills, wisdom to the best of our abilities? Are we the reason why machines are taking over for generalist problems?
See, how many years would it take to teach basic arithmetic?
Mm-hmm.
So we have 250 people here. You bring 1,000 testers into a room. Ask them what is boundary value analysis. How many years does it take to teach -1 plus 1 or minus delta plus delta or 4 value versus 6 value? We are lethargic community. Okay, I don't want to insult people, but we are after fancy terms, and it goes back to the same statement that foundations are essential. Things which, so you see, I remember an interview. I was interviewing a test manager, 13 years experienced, and I asked him what is boundary value analysis. Yeah, he was offended with the question. So I politely explained to him, sir, you are not offended with the question. Actually, if you look at, you are offended with the answer which you are going to give me, because your answer has not improved in 14 years. Your answer is the same which a fresher or maybe a fifth class grade 10-year kid is going to give me, -1 plus 1. I showed him an article by another guy, by he's Alan Page's colleague, who wrote an 8-page article on boundary value analysis. William Rollison,
Great
Bob
Jason.
Rollison,
Brian
William
Jason.
Rollison, William
Okay.
Rollison. Okay, he wrote a 7-8 page article on the boundary value analysis of a date field. Yeah, that is called experience. If your answers are not changing with your experience, don't get offended with questions. Questions are the same as Aprajita mentioned. The questions are same, but our answers must have changed along the way. When somebody asks what is the difference between manual and automated testing, I don't have a problem with this question. As Pradeep was also mentioning, it's the same question, right? The problem is not the question. Questions don't change. The problem is that our answers are not changing. We are still giving the same answers today. Okay, when our answers start changing, that when somebody asks manual versus automation and we say, what shit are you talking about? The day you are able to answer this, then we have changed. Till you're explaining this, still trying to woo people into testing profession, not the leftovers, not the left outs, then I would say change has happened. If you really want to talk about change, as we are talking the concept of change on this panel, go to a college and in front of my eyes, convince the topmost people in that batch to join testing. Then I would think change has happened. Till that
You know,
happens, let's not fall into gimmickry, please. Yeah.
cool. With no offense to any other panels or interviews I have been to and attended on the same topic, I I want to admit and insist and emphasize that on this question like this, which is like pretty similar and being asked everywhere on all the forums so far, the discussion we are having today is the most insight I have been to. And I would like to thank you already for the answers and insights you have shared right now. So on that note, I will move on to the next question. So what new skills do you expect testers to acquire to prepare themselves for testing after 2020? Considering the fact that now we are doing more remote working, the work related situations are changing, the dynamics and interactions, lots of things that are usually empowering testers are changing. What new skills should they acquire?
Well, I dodged this question to Aparajita.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. It's funny, Lalit. So I've always, every time someone says skills, the first thing that, like, it's almost like a bubble in a cartoon that shows up and my jaw drops is like, um, how about soft skills? Why don't we start with soft skills? We never talk about them.
Mhm.
I can list 562 technology items or bullet items that you would start with. But I would say if you're going to stay in this industry and or any industry, need to do better with skills, soft skills, right? Whether that's communication, networking, presentation. So many of them. Um, and then from technology perspective, I think it's really very individualistic, right? Like um, I get extremely bored when I'm studying a programming language. I'm being honest. And I've probably coded in more than 5 or 6 of them, but I get extremely bored if I'm trying to figure out the syntax. I don't need to. I can just Google it, to be honest, right? Like we're at a stage where I don't need to remember exactly how I'm going to call something. For me personally, I generally move from projects to projects. My domain is in biology, so I move from projects to projects, learning different biology domains. That's what excites me. And I think that's what's kept me happy. So this is more of a self-reflective question for new skills. You should start where what you want to learn. I know it's very general and you're like, what are you talking about? Can you not give me like one thing that I should learn? I think people need to sit and think what excites them, what makes them happy, and whatever they come up with, they should start there because that is what's going to stick. I can try learning Java. I'm horrible at it. So just saying.
Can I dodge you back this question to you, Khalid?
Okay, what new skills? The the past skills itself are a lot incomplete. So I just asked them to pick up the skills that they already know that they should pick up. And more than this, I think it's about this, right? Again, quoting what's a Bruce Lee here. It's not about how many techniques we learn. It's about being able to learn that one technique to be able to apply it really well. I see that is missing. We are all learning it half. There is no deep expertise that is being built on a lot of cases, and that's where I would request people to focus on in terms of and what new skills. I mean, there's already as people have said, there's already a plethora of skills that people already know about, and it's something that they've taken lightly because I think the work at hand masks the learning opportunities that are there with it. So I would just say that people already know what they need to learn. It's just that they're not gone deep enough, and that's what I would actually suggest.
Cool, thank you. What do you say, Ashok?
The world, the way we build, has undergone a shift, as I was trying to allude to earlier. It's about assembly, where we are learning to put things together because you've got a lot of different parts, and there are smarter tools that we are able to use to put these things. Okay. So truly speaking, if you look at it slightly differently, do we need depth in each one of them? Well, I'm not sure, because there are so many different specialized pieces that we are able to assemble, put together. The trouble? The trouble is the assembly. The trouble is the fact that each one of them are built for a specific context. Each one of them have their own little things that they work with in different environments. So when you put them together, you got to adjust shape to it's like building using Lego, right? And that kind of a skill is really not specialized. It's really a lot more general systems thinking that comes into picture. So one is the notion of knowledge, and the other is, of course, practice it to depth such that it becomes a skill, right? So there is a whole bunch of areas where we need to have some meaningful knowledge for us to be able to grasp it well enough, okay? And today, technology is a plethora of interesting words. So I guess, depending on what you're working, you would pick some that makes sense to your, to your company, your product, your business. And there's a ton of them, but that's knowledge. Now, why is that? Why is that useful? That's useful to understand the way we are able to assemble things and architect things and plumb things, and therefore kind of say, okay, if I put these things together, well, these are kinds of issues that I'm going to possibly find, or how to go about finding such issues or any issues, if you will. So a good, ability to have general systems thinking as a skill is, to me, fairly important. Okay, number one. Number two. Well, it's no more, you can't kind of disengage technology, disengage languages and programming and stuff. You really have to understand that we live in a fairly tech world at this point in time. So having a certain amount of love and affection and familiarity with the various development pieces, not necessarily all of them deep, is paramount. Okay? There's no way to running away from that piece. So having that knowledge and having the ability to know just about what is needed and then go. So to me, I think of it as, is it breadth versus depth? Is it depth first, breadth first? What are we doing? I think in this age of speed, I think we're kind of going a bit of breadth first, depth later. Breadth first, depth later. And you iterate very, very, very rapidly. And in the process, try to cover as much as possible as needed, given the fact that, well, we have to release products. So, right, it's not just we're trying to learn because we want to learn. You just have to deliver something meaningful. So the shift of thinking of a depth to a breadth, it's like more like, breadth, depth, breadth, depth, breadth, depth, and we kind of shift that kind of thinking rapidly. So it's another kind of skill, right? Now, coming to the other parts, which we have to really go from outside to inside. So when I say outside to inside, I would take on what Aprajita mentioned. Things which are not called technical in nature, right? So she talked about a few. To me, it's about being extraordinarily mindful, being extraordinarily connected, being extraordinarily creative. And how do you foster those? You probably need to doodle, you need to do pictures, you need to do paper, you need to do a lot of other stuff, some of which hopefully I will talk about tomorrow. But that to me is a skill where I'm going inward because I'm trying to harness my power far more so that I can leverage on whatever technology that is available. And I will not possibly do what technology already does. And I may not even care to appreciate a whole lot of how it does, but I really would care to appreciate how they connect to each other. And therefore, these are shifts to me in terms of how I look at the assembly of knowledge into skills and ultimately say, look, if there are things that are smarter, I hope you become more smarter than them, meaning the machines in this case, the technology in this case, or whatever it is. So I think that's a bit of a shift in terms of how we look at programming, development, engineering, problem solving, mindfulness, creativity, if you will, and so on. And of course, having the entire notion that it's highly evolutionary thinking, a biology-oriented thinking would help a whole lot. I've been a hardcore engineer for many, many years, and now I'm kind of thinking that, hey, engineering is not as much fun. Not to say fun, there are a lot of things outside of it where things are a little more fun. So there are social stuff, there is biology stuff, which change the way how you think. So it's a great compliment in terms of how we're looking at things today.
Thank you so much, Ashok. And for the benefit of time, I would move on to the next question, and maybe Raul, you can open. So as you might be knowing, I'm running a global state of testing survey from quite some years with Joel from PractiTest. And we realized that over the years of doing this survey, testers still find it challenging to be involved early in the process. How do we avoid making it worse with changing work situations? Like currently we are all getting impacted with our delivery time schedules. Things are kind of not fast enough because we all are doing things from home. Lots of things. I don't have to explain that in detail. And I fear impact on testers' involvement. Will this be another excuse not to involve them as early enough, or will they be only asked when tests are failing and asked for updates? So how do you look at this? Pradeep, I think you are already ready with an answer.
No, I'm laughing at myself. 5 years ago in a conference, the same question was asked. That's that's what is making me laugh. In the sense that we as an industry, need to progress. I think that's a message that has been going out, repeatedly. Okay, but at the same time, I think it's okay to not, inspired by what Rahul Verma said, that our answers are not changing. I'm going to change my answer, Rahul. I'm going to change my answer right now.
Okay.
Don't get involved in the early stage if they don't want to involve you in the early stage. Get your peace of mind and focus on things that you still need to focus on. Right? You're worried to be in a meeting where they are not calling you. It's like I think we've all had friends' birthday parties where we did not get the invite, where we were hoping we will get the invite, right? So it's like that. If you don't get the invite, go make friends with others and still be happy in life. And here is also what I'm saying, right? Are we doing good in the meetings that we are currently involved in right now? If that's not happening, going and sitting in a meeting that makes us feel important is not going to make a big difference. So that's just some thoughts from me. I'm going to sip water again and let others do the speaking.
Your turn, Raul. I will sip my tea.
Yeah, I actually agree to what Deep mentioned. I'll share a personal story of being involved early in the process of testing. That happened in the year 2008. So the team decided that whatever documents, whatever is the output of any activity, whether it's a dev activity or a testing activity, should be reviewed by 4 individuals. 2 of them should be developers and 2 of them should be testers. Now, involving early has a cost. Some of them are requirement documents, plain English. Okay, we know English, we can go through it. And then, so Pradeep is already aware of McAfee. So it has a very technical core kind of engine kind of work, in which those requirements are not typical, e-commerce kind of requirements, which you go through and read plain English and you can really understand. Those requirement documents are around encryption cycles, which cycle and what was tweaked into it. Those are the requirements. They are in English, but it is not plain English. So you really need to know the subject to understand. So 0 output given, no review comments, because I didn't understand anything. So what do I give it as a review comment? That I didn't understand. And then comes UML diagrams, sequence diagrams, design docs, code. So all this noise which we as a community keep creating of involving us early. So Pradeep actually raised an important question, that what value are we going to add there? Are we technically equipped to add value if we are involved early? If we are not, we should stop begging for it. Build the skills, add value, and you would find that in teams where it has happened, and in the same team which I'm talking about, there was a tester. He was like 30, 35 years experienced, still with the designation of engineer, still a proud tester. He was my role model. And this guy used to govern the API design which developer would develop. He would give the specifications. Did he ask for being involved early, or did he earn it? He actually dictated design to developers. So to me, it's a question of dignity, first of all. We should start respecting testing in the way it deserves to be respected as a profession. It is our profession. So it's a question of dignity. The moment we start feeling dignified as a tester, we start truly respecting it, not just because it is bringing money. That's anyways happening. That's a good thing. But we truly start respecting our profession, then we would start learning in an honest manner also. And as we learn, as we build skills, people around us are not fools. We keep blaming management. Management are not, they also want to get work done. They want good individuals. Despite all the politics, such people would always bubble up. You would have seen enough evidence in your life, if you honestly look at it, that while you were crying about politics, good people bubbled. And they are doing good, very well today, irrespective of which situation they were in. Okay? Irrespective of what kind of management, what kind of industry was going on. So trust in yourself, feel dignified as a tester, build your skills, and then one day, slowly, might happen slow or fast, you would be involved early in a stage where you would be able to contribute value. Yeah. And this has nothing to do with Corona. This has nothing to do with the year 2020. This is the same situation since years. Yeah. And this is how it is going to be later also. Let's not make a process out of it. Agile tried to solve this problem by making it a process. This is not a problem of process. It's a question of dignity and skill, in my opinion. And culture part. Yeah.
Excellent. Actually, we are already 2 minutes ahead of the schedule, but guess what? I don't care. I would like to continue with this amazing panel we already have. And Ashok, I would like to hear your thoughts. And after that, Aparajita, yours.
Sure. So I think when anybody wants you to involve early or late, I think they involve you because you can deliver some value, right? You contribute to the whole park, Now, if a person who calls himself or herself as a tester is not able to add meaningful value either from the context of business view at the early stage or the architecture, technology view, or whatever construction related view, then obviously after maybe faltering with that person once, it may not occur the second time, right? So I think the involvement in early, though noble, can only add value when the other person can actually deliver value, right? That's important to understand. So we have to learn to understand that we kind of sometimes think like a frog, we sometimes behave like a frog in the well, where we think testing is the area that we're going to live in, and that's the real well. You need to rise up, okay? So you need to rise up and have a far better worldview in the entire process rather than kind of thinking, sitting inside the well of testing. That's an area that we specialize in, absolutely appreciate it. But then having a larger context of what the business is all about, what technology stuff is all about, and how you can add value either in the early stage by giving inputs, to help better construction, better featureization, so that it adds value to the business, then I would think it's great. Then I would certainly involve you. So until we learn to kind of say, hey, it's just not about sitting in this one area or one well called testing, but I also need to have a much more stronger view, a stronger world view, which I think we're still not yet there. Okay? So it's, and there will always be this well, every well is always very, very deep. Okay, and therefore there's always a propensity for us to go deeper into the well, but then you could get easily lost and crib about when you're going further down. So you need to have balanced that piece far better. So to me, it's all about value. One little experience that I had with one consulting engagement, an interesting company. They were agile. They were doing a lot of stuff. They were doing it in the agile fashion. This is many, many years ago in the early stage, I would think. And I think we were trying to see how we can add value in the early stage by looking at possibly a spec design document, which was like maybe not very long. Maybe you're talking about 2 pages at the best, right? And all we did was we collectively sat down for 2 hours and I kind of analyzed it to death. That, page and a half, so to speak. And what happened? The ability, the way we looked at it was interesting because we found some really nice design problems. Some of them are issues of multi-threading. Some of them are issues of race conditions, things which you can't really easily test and find out, okay? And that could come only because we did a very, very nice analytical ability of having certain amount of knowledge of technology as needed in the context of where it is applied in the context of the business. And we found really very nice problems, which if they're gone all the way through, I'm sure it is a real pain to one to find and second to fix. And that to me was a very nice learning experience. And we don't think we invest as much time to do that because we probably are still sitting inside the testing well.
Great insights. Thanks, Ashok. Aprajita, what's your story?
So, I'm going to ask people to ask why, right? If I ask anyone who's listening to this panel and I say why, and they start getting defensive, right? If you get defensive, realize and stop. Because as soon as you get defensive, you're not thinking anymore, right? You're just following something that you have heard and you're just, Rahul said this already, you're just repeating the same answer. So any such question, ask why. It may or may not apply to all situations. So for me, for example, the products that I work on, software is not the primary product, right? It's one of the things that goes in the entire product. So testing early actually doesn't even make sense. There's no reason for you to start getting involved in how are you going to collect, a sample or how you're going to sequence it. It doesn't make any sense to get involved at that stage unless you're really, where the software starts getting involved. The second thing that I would say is we did a small social experiment. This was very interesting. So I had a new team and everybody was really pumped up and they were like, we need to go into all these meetings and we don't get the status and no one asks us and they're just really very upset about all of this, right? So if the only reason you're going to a meeting is because you have to give a status update, that is a waste of your time. You have much more value to bring to this organization or any organization, right? You can just send an email if you wanted to give status update. And if that is what they expect out of you, and this is what's expected out of you in general, right? You don't need to be in that meeting. So what we did role reversal. And I started telling my test team that, okay, fine, you guys get involved, even though, does not make sense for you to get involved this early. But we're also going to ask developers to come and now start reviewing your test cases when you're at the end of the cycle. What? Why would they do that? Well, just want to make sure that you guys didn't miss anything. So we started doing these test reviews. It was a very interesting social experiment. So the developers would come in and they'll point out all these knacky little things. And the testers, there's this whole political thing going on and coffee conversations, just yeah, wo to farak bhi nahi padta hai. Why is he talking about this? And what big deal if I coded it this way? At least it works, right? So I was like, okay, do you really need the developer's expertise at this point when you're almost about to release? Your if loop is not the best if loop, but fine, it works for your testing. That is not what you were trying to do. You were trying to test the system, and it's fine. Say similarly, from development perspective or any other process perspective, it's you can think about it as agile, you can think about it as circles. It doesn't matter. Wherever you start, it's not necessary that your starting point and their starting point is the same. It doesn't have to be, right? If the goal of the team is to produce a quality product, whatever product that is, we need to figure out what those starting points are. And believe it or not, you can take the same company, two different products, and those starting points can be completely different, right? So as humans, we feel better if we have the same process, subah uthe, brush kiya, khana khaya, you have this routine that you're going through and you keep following the same thing. But you really need to question why and what is the best time to do this and innovate and grow with that. So just ask why. And then if you get defensive, something's wrong. That's my solution.
Great. I have one last question, and I would ask you to answer each one of you in one line or one word if you prefer. What is that one positive thing about testing after 2020 that excites you the most?
2021.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What about you, Mathu?
Did you just call me by my last name?
Yeah, I read it wrongly. Go ahead.
Actually, what's really exciting, not just in 2020 also, is conferences, right? I'm able to attend a conference in India. That's amazing. So the whole concept of connecting, the connection part is amazing.
Cool. What do you think, Rahul?
Don't know. It's still 2020, right? So we would see.
Okay.
It's not a pessimistic answer. Please understand. I'm tired of future projections. I want to live in the present, really. I'm very happy in the present, the way things are.
To me,
Yes.
it's about becoming more smarter and going inwards.
Great. Thank you so much. I will ask just one question from the audience, and I would let all of them to have a discussion with you in the Slack channel we have for the expert panel. Market is asking for T-skill testers currently or even employees. What is panel's opinion about this? I believe it relates to what Rahul you were saying about generalist and in the T-tester model. If you have heard of, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So
So
what
Yeah,
I think I have.
before that, Rahul, can I just make a point?
Yeah, please go ahead now.
I just don't know the answer for that. So okay, please go ahead.
So I think this. See, we want to create fancy model of common sense. That's what it is. That you should do deep dive into one subject and you should know a little bit about everything. It's like a person running a barber shop and looks at a person who's a shoemaker next to him, and he looks at him and understands and empathizes how shoe is made. That's T-shaped model in simple words. And there's no harm in it, because fundamental people should not forget the shape of the T and how wide or it goes. They should focus on how deep it goes, because that's what specialization is. When you work as a team through simple empathy, conversation, tea time, knowing about what people are doing, the tea would evolve. You can remain a specialist. That's how the tea is formed. Yeah. So please also, from my perspective, people expect tech skills to be told to them when they talk to me. But the thing is that I have evolved over time. So focus is in my opinion the key skill. Please focus. Pick one thing. Be good at it. It might be anything. It may not be testing at all. Come out of testing profession if you want to, but pick one thing. Try to be very good at it, because that's where we are headed. In general, empathize. So empathy is, people say you're born with it. I don't think so. It can be cultured. You can develop empathy, and collaboration as one of the key points which Deep has talked in his book as well. And these things are interrelated. If you focus, if you're good at what you do, you can empathize better with what somebody else is doing and hence collaborate. So these are the three key things.
Thanks. What do you think, Aprajita?
Oh, the T model, it reminds me of a comb. So you know how if you take a comb, it has all these, comb things, Now imagine breaking the comb and now they're uneven, right? But are those spikes going to stay if you don't have the base? No, they're not. Can you even use the comb? No, you're not. So if you really want to do good, think about yourself as that comb, right? And you have a lot of things already. I'm not talking from technical perspective, just as a basic human communication, being able to present, being able to empathize, all some of the things that Rahul already said. Grow them. That is your base. Build up your base skills and then see where you want to grow. And it doesn't even have to be a perfect comb. It still works, right? If some of your teeth are both, it still works. You can still comb your hair. My hair's pretty long, but you can still comb it. So find the teeth that you like and focus and grow in other teeth if you can, right? If you have that bandwidth. But yeah, that's what I think.
Great. Ashok, I would let you conclude the panel with your answer today.
See, as a runner, when I run, one of the things that you're taught if you're an athlete, if you run, I'm an amateur runner anyway, so you're taught that, it's power is not in your muscle. It's really in your form. It's to how you utilize the form, the angle which you run, the amount of cadence that you put in, the amount of time that your leg stays in contact with this stuff, with the ground and so on. So they really are the fundamental basics, right? And they're really very hard because you've got to practice it like that. And if you're going to be running at least a marathon, which is 42, or anything more than that, well, you unless you have some of these things set up, you're going to die, basically, right? Now, and then you pick something and then you go very, very deep in it. So you say, okay, I'm going to be one of those fast runners, so I'm going to max out at those, I'm going to do really short distances, or I'm going to be the ultra long distance runner who's going to run really long distances. I chose the latter, right? But form is terribly important, right? So that's like the base. And you pick something and then you say, okay, if you want to be the long distance kind of guy, you do whatever is necessary to stay on your feet, 100 miles, whatever, whatever distance that you like. So that's terribly important. But you see, during the act, there are so many other things that are fundamental that become important because you need to constantly evolve. For example, if I were to run a race, which is, let's say, a 24 hours continuous non-stop, it's not just about the food, it's not just about the techniques. I've got a lot of improvisation, adjustment that I have to do. And that's where a lot of these complementary skills come into picture, and they have to be there. And there is a lot of inspiration from other disciplines, other things, and so on. And that to me is nothing to do with running. It's just the fact that they help you. They help you to ensure that you stay positive, that help you to ensure that you convert the pain which is up there into energy that you can use, and so on and so forth. And that's the same thing that I would employ in any discipline. In this case, we're talking about a professional discipline of testing. So the same stuff is, a great form with some fantastic depth in the area that we work with absolutely great influencing abilities from a lot of other disciplines, technical or otherwise, become paramount as we go forward. And as we realize that, then we realize that, yes, you can be in the well, but you've got to come out constantly to see the light above.
Great. Thank you so much. It was a very, very interesting discussion. I gained lots of insight, and I'm sure our audience also enjoyed the conversation. I ask all of you to please be on the Slack channel for expert panel. There are more questions probably, and people would like to interact with you. Thank you so much, and wish you a great rest of the time. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
And for our audience, in a very short time, I'm going to spin the wheel for selecting the winner for travel selfie contest that we have. Let me pull out the link. Give me a second, please. I need to find a chat. Mahesh, could you please bring me the link for the will? I don't find it here. All right, let me just type it out. What's that? All right, there you go. And I'm going on full screen mode. I believe you all can see my screen still. Yes. And let me just click. Okay, we were pretty close. Ramit Kaur, wonderful. You win the prize today for the selfie contest, and Test Drive will get in touch with you for your prize money or prize gift voucher, whatever we have in place. On that note, I would like to conclude the day by thanking our sponsors. Pink Lion, Mulya, Test Sigma, thank you so much. Thank you all for being with us today. A very special thank to our community partners. You can see their names and details on the screen. And most of all, thank you, all of you, for being an amazing audience. Please join the community, thetesttribe.com. We would like to hear you more. We would like to interact with you more, and we will see you there. Thank you so very much for the wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. Bye.